Now that we have our project all set up, let's talk about three important and fundamental principles that we need to constantly keep in mind if we want to build good, modern websites or web apps with HTML and CSS. And I call them the three pillars of writing good HTML and CSS. Now, this lecture is not exactly about coding, but it's absolutely crucial that we talk about these principles here right in the beginning of the course, so that we start off the project without making any mistakes we would then have to fix later down the road. Alright, so the three pillars are responsive design, writing maintainable and scalable code, and caring about web performance. But let's look at them one by one. So, the first principle is responsive design, or responsive web design, which simply means that we build one website that works beautifully across all screen sizes on all devices. But I'm sure you already know that, right? So, responsive design is absolutely a standard today, and so there is no way you're going to build a non-responsive website in 2017 or even later. Now, if you're taking this advanced course, then I assume that you already know at least the fundamentals of responsive web design, things like fluid layouts and media queries. But we're going to take it one step further in this course, because modern responsive design also includes stuff like responsive images, which is a huge topic itself, using correct units for things like font sizes or element dimensions, and it also includes having either a desktop first or a mobile first strategy. And we're going to talk about all of that during the projects of this course. Next up, we need to talk about writing maintainable and scalable code. Now, this is actually more important for you, the developer, than for the final user of the website. But it's still something we need to follow if we want to build a good website. So, writing maintainable and scalable code means to write code that is clean, easy to understand, that supports future growth, and above all, that is reusable for you as well as for other developers who might take on your project in the future. So, if we want to write maintainable and scalable code, we need to care and think about our CSS architecture, which is the way we organize our files, how we name our classes, and how we structure our markup in HTML. Now, don't worry if all of this sounds weird or complicated to you, because it's really not, and we'll talk about this stuff in a separate lecture a bit later in this section. What I want you to understand for now is that this stuff is really important if you want to step up your game and become a more professional CSS or front-end web developer in general. Writing maintainable code is something that all professional web developers care about a lot. Alright, and last but not least, let's talk web performance. Making a website or app more performant means to make it faster and to make it smaller in size, so that the user has to download less data. Now, there are many things that affect performance, and some factors don't have much to do with our code, but some of the things that we can do is to make as little HTTP requests as possible, meaning that we should include as little as possible files in our HTML document, write as little code as possible, of course, compress our code, and use a preprocessor like Sass that we're going to explore later in this course. Now, this is all great, but maybe the biggest impact we can have on performance is to actually reduce the use of images, because images are usually what makes up by far the biggest part of the size of a website. We can do so by using only images that are really necessary for a website or app, and also by compressing these images so that they use less bandwidth for the final user. Okay, so these are the three pillars that we will have in mind all the time while building our projects. We have to always ask ourselves if the code we're writing is responsive, if it's maintainable and scalable, and if it affects web performance.